Hey everybody, hope everybody's doing well as I am, and I would like to do another video specifically dealing with mixing, and even more specifically dealing with mono mixing. And I've got a couple topics I'd like to cover about that, and then at the end of the video I have another little tip that I think will help you immensely getting balances on your mix, so I highly suggest that you stick around for that. And without further ado, let's just get right into it. The benefits for mixing in mono, there are many benefits, and there's many ways that you can listen to something in mono. And one of the ways you can do within Studio One is they have specifically a mono button on the master fader over here, the master bus, and it allows you to collapse your stereo mix to mono. You may ask, well, why do I want to listen to my mix in mono? Everybody listens in earbuds or headphones or stereo speakers, and there's many reasons. Actually, some of them not staying as popular as they might have used to in the past, but picture being in a car that only has a single speaker, or walking through a department store that has music coming overhead, or in an elevator, even a radio that only has one speaker in it. And so certainly when your mix is collapsed down to mono through that way, you don't want to have your mix end up sounding not what you wanted to have in the first place. And so the reason that you want to check your mix in mono is because there could be issues when you combine what the information is on your left channel with your right channel, specifically if you have identical or very near sounding sources, like say two guitars pan left and right. You don't want them to cancel out. You want to and they will cancel out basically by phase cancellation, and it will cause an effect like comb filtering, or you may just completely not even hear the source if it is purely identical and they're 180 degrees out of phase. I had another video specifically talking about that, and if you want to check that out, I highly recommend it, and I'll put that link down below. But let me just show you here with these two guitars. Basically the same guitar, recorded twice, same guitar part, and I'm going to collapse this to mono. You can either do this by bringing in the pan, or what's even easier, over here in the master fader, you click the little mono button. How easy is that? And so what we heard actually sounded just fine in this specific case. There was a little bit of degradation, but for the most part everything worked out good. I like hearing things in stereo much better, as I'm sure most of you do too. But if you notice, the volume didn't drop and the tone of the guitars pretty much stayed the same. And back to stereo. Now let's do that with the whole mix, and listen to other things like the kick drum, your snare drum, and things, and make sure that you can still hear them as well. For the most part, everything is still well balanced in this particular mix. I'm not losing the lead, which is a stereo lead guitar. I'm not losing the kick drum. The drums aren't dropping away from stereo overheads, etc., etc. So everything's working very well. Now that's one way to collapse your mix by a push of a button, is this over here. And I showed you the panning, where you could pan them. Let me pan those guys back out, where you could pan them together. And then your audio interface also might have a mono button, so you might check your audio interface, and it may just be as simple as pushing a button. Another way that you can hear something in mono, and this isn't potentially always as reliably accurate, is to step away from the sweet spot of your mixing. And the sweet spot, of course, is you've got your speakers left and right, and hopefully you're sitting in an equal distance from the speakers as the speakers are apart, or in an equilateral triangle. Okay, you want to be in the sweet spot for your best mixing. Now if you step back, let's say my speakers are 5 feet apart and I step back 20 or 30 feet if my room allows it, but I can step back 20 feet in this room, my sound source actually becomes more collapsed and will have the effect of sounding as a mono source. This is even more pronounced when you walk out of the room and down the hall or into another room of your house. You're definitely hearing it mono. Now your frequency responses may alter a little bit. You're going to hear more of your bass response with the longer bass wavelengths, and the high frequencies generally are absorbed quicker in your furniture and that sort of thing. That's why when you're in an intersection and you hear a car pull up and you hear the a good beatbox there, you hear the boom. That's because you're hearing the bass frequencies, and you're gonna those are more prevalent, and that's potentially you're going to hear that same sort of effect walking into another room. You won't hear the crispy cymbals as much, but what it does allow you to do is to get an overall balance of your instruments. If you walk out of the room and you've got a song such as this and you lose your snare drum, that means that your snare drum needs some attention back in your mix. Okay, same as far as just general overall balance. If I lose those lead guitars, I'm going to either need to bring them up, or if that's all I hear, I'm going to need to bring them down. But holy goodness that we don't bring down a lead guitar, right? We don't want to do that. Okay, so we've established about mixing in mono and how benefits that will give you as far as your mixing and helping you achieve better results with your mixes, especially how they will translate over other systems, and specifically how they're going to translate when you're making that elevator music, right? Okay, and here's that last tip that I want to show you, and I'm kind of doing it a little bit right now, but that is to take your master fader, and I've got it here on my fader port, and you can just bring this fader all the way down and listen to see what drops out first. Okay, and I'm going to do that. And hopefully you could hear that. That wasn't getting too quiet. But on my system, I'm hearing everything is actually pretty well balanced in this quick rough mix here. I'm not losing my kick drum. I'm not losing the lead guitars. I'm not losing my bass instrument. And so everything seems to be balanced very well. And so that's a very good method. Just listen to it at extremely low volume. If I have something that drops out too quick, in fact, I'm going to lower these guitars, these rhythm guitars, fuzz guitars. And you can hear how they just really disappeared first. I'm exaggerating that. And so it's just another method that to help you achieve that balance between your instruments. Remember, check it in mono, check it at all volume levels, check it in the car, check it in your elevator. And that's it, guys. We'll talk to you in the next video. Thanks for hanging around.